Imagine a bridge. Not, just steel and concrete, but one built of geopolitical ambition.
Right, stretching across a really volatile region.
And triggering threats of a graveyard. And now there are these reports linking it to a 100-year U.S. lease.
It sounds like something out of a geopolitical thriller, doesn't it?
It really does. So today we're doing a deep dive into this really tense situation around the Zangezur corridor.
Sometimes called the Megri corridor.
Right, Megri corridor. It's this proposed transport route in the South Caucasus.
And like you said, it's way more than just trade. It's become a major strategic flashpoint.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing reports, and these are unconfirmed, alleging the U.S. secured a 100-year lease for this corridor, the Trump Bridge, right on Iran's border.
And this was apparently proposed through an American private military contractor offered to Armenia.
Meanwhile, Iran. Well, they've already vowed to turn this exact corridor into a graveyard.
Strong words. They clearly see it as a U.S. and Israeli project aimed at cutting off their regional ties, isolating their allies.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack why this seemingly simple transport route has become such a critical fault line.
Yeah, how it connects these, regional conflicts to bigger global power shifts.
And even challenges some established foreign policy ideas, especially in the West. It's a fascinating case study, really.
It absolutely is. It shows how quickly these local infrastructure projects can spiral into major international friction points.
The Zangezur corridor is a perfect example of that, isn't it?
Totally. If you zoom out, it's not just about a road or a railway. It's potentially redrawing the geopolitical map, shifting influence.
Okay, so break that down for us. Why is this corridor specifically such a potent symbol, especially for Armenia caught in the middle?
Well, the corridor itself, it's planned to run through southern Armenia.
Right.
And the idea is to link Azerbaijan proper to its exclave, Nakhchivan.
Which then connects onward to Turkey.
Exactly. So you can see the appeal, regional connectivity, trade routes, maybe energy pipelines down the line, big potential benefit.
But for Armenia?
For Armenia, the stakes are incredibly high. Our sources suggest that giving control, especially long-term control, via something like a concession to a foreign private company, well, that could ignite serious internal friction.
Over sovereignty, national security.
Precisely. And it risks making Armenia even more dependent on outside powers. Given the pressure they already face from the Turkish-Azerbaijani alliance, this just adds another layer of, well, complexity and danger.
And this is where the Trump Bridge idea fits in. The sources we looked at point to a specific U.S. proposal.
Yeah, reportedly floated by the U.S. ambassador to Turkey.
Suggesting this route be put under a long-term concession managed by an American private military contractor.
And then came that leak, right? July 23rd, 2025.
That's the one. Claiming a secret deal, a 100-year lease for this corridor involving Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the U.S.
100 years on Iran's border. That definitely raises eyebrows about long-term foreign influence in such a sensitive spot.
No kidding. And Iran's reaction? It wasn't subtle?
Not at all. Vowing to turn it into a graveyard.
A.A. Velayat-e, a senior Iranian figure, spelled it out pretty clearly, didn't he?
He did. From Tehran's perspective, the Zangezur corridor is seen explicitly as a U.S. and Israeli project.
Designed specifically to isolate Iran, Russia, their allies?
Exactly. They don't see it as just a commercial route. They see it as strategic encirclement, something that, by its nature, escalates tensions in the region.
Which explains why it's such a sore point, not just for Iran, but for Russia and China, too.
They all likely view it as a direct challenge, a move to cut off vital land links and chip away at their influence.
To really get why Iran's reacting so strongly, we probably need to understand the regime's foundation. That 1979 doctrine, Velayat-e Faqih.
Yes, the guardianship of the jurist. That's absolutely central. It's the, you could say, strategic core of the theocratic system.
Explain that a bit. How does it shape their actions?
Well, it essentially fuses religious and political power, granting ultimate authority to a top cleric, currently Ayatollah Khamenei.
So the supreme leader calls the shots.
Right. And the system explicitly rejects Western ideas like secular government or, popular sovereignty, where the people are the final authority.
Which, according to some analyses, makes the regime kind of resistant to normal diplomatic pressure.
Exactly. Because dissent isn't just political disagreement. It can be framed as heresy, as religiously unacceptable.
So it's a fundamentally different way of viewing governance and the world.
It is. But it's also important, as our sources point out, to remember Iran's long history. This theocratic system is relatively new,
Right, you're talking about the thousands of years before 1979.
Over 2,500 years of monarchy, yeah.
Yeah.
From the ancient Achaemenids, think Cyrus the Great, right up to the Pahlavi dynasty that was overthrown.
And those periods weren't necessarily unstable or backward, were they?
Not at all. Often they saw significant stability, economic growth, even progressive reforms. The Achaemenids had early concepts of human rights, like the Cyrus cylinder.
And the Pahlavis, before the revolution, pushed things like women's rights, industrialization.
Secular education, yeah. The point some sources make is that there's this alternative historical vision for Iran. One based more on, say, national identity and self-determination, not necessarily clerical rule.
That contrast is pretty stark, and it helps understand maybe some of the internal tensions and the regime's actions today.
Absolutely, both inside Iran and across its borders. Domestically, for instance, they're heavily engaged in fighting various militant groups.
Like the recent attack in Zahedan.
Yeah, July 26th. The Sunni group, Jaish al-Adlo, attacked a courthouse.
Yeah.
Killed at least 6 people.
And they claimed it was revenge for repression of the Baluchi minority.
That's what they claimed. And Iran has a history here. They dismantled another group, Jindala, years ago after it caused many deaths. Now Jaish al-Adl is facing intense pressure.
Including cross-border strikes.
Yes, Iranian missile and airstrikes hit their bases in Pakistan back in January 2025. It's part of a broader strategy.
And Iranian officials often blame foreign powers for supporting these groups, right?
They do. They accuse groups like Jaish al-Adl of getting foreign funding, working with foreign intelligence, linking it all to efforts to destabilize the region.
So Tehran uses a mix of tools, special ops, military strikes, intelligence, trying to cut off smuggling routes.
It's a comprehensive approach, certainly. And this internal struggle connects to their wider activities.
Which brings us to things like the reported Israeli strikes back in June 2025.
Right, targeting military leaders, maybe nuclear sites. That was a major event.
And then issues with India at Chabahar port over alleged spying in July.
That too. And going back a bit further, you had the Pentagon assessments in late 2024 about Iran sending missiles to Russia for potential use in Ukraine.
Plus, that alleged drone attack on the tanker near India in December 2023.
So you see this pattern: internal security challenges, external confrontations, projecting power. It paints a picture of Iran as this theocratic fortress, as some sources put it.
A linchpin in this fragile global setup. Defiant, strategically important, but also potentially vulnerable.
That's the tension, exactly.
Yeah.
And all this is happening while the bigger geopolitical plates are shifting.
Like Russia's situation post-Ukraine invasion.
Yeah, the war has clearly strained Russia. Sources talk about its influence waning in some areas.
Creating a vacuum.
Possibly. And China seems to be stepping into that space, carefully, discreetly, shaping things without necessarily taking overt sides everywhere.
Which presents the West with an opportunity, a challenge.
Both, probably. It forces what the source material calls a strategic recalibration, a rethinking of how to engage or disengage.
Strategic recalibration. I like that phrase. It leads us nicely into thinking about different foreign policy approaches, particularly from a conservative standpoint, maybe.
Well, the sources we reviewed do delve into that debate within conservative foreign policy circles. It's not monolithic, you know. It's about grappling with what strength means, what responsibility entails, moving past just slogans.
So how does that play out? Can we see examples in recent actions?
The sources use actions from the Trump administration to illustrate this tension. A tension between, say, traditional non-interventionism and this idea of calibrated engagement.
Calibrated engagement. So not isolationism, but not constant intervention either.
Something like that. It's about being assertive, guided by principles, but adjusting the tactics based on the situation. Trying to find that strategic sweet spot. How do you project strength responsibly?
Okay, so what specific actions did the sources highlight as examples of this debate?
Well, you see potentially conflicting signals. On one hand, reports of proposed major cuts to the State Department, foreign aid, staff reductions at embassies worldwide.
That sounds like pulling back, reducing the diplomatic footprint.
It could be interpreted that way, yes. But then on the other hand, you see very assertive economic actions.
Like the tariffs.
Exactly. The reported 50% tariff on Indian goods over Russian oil, or threatening BRICS nations with 100% tariffs if they challenge the dollar. That's using economic muscle assertively.
A different kind of power projection.
Definitely. And then there were the diplomatic moves, like the reported pressure on Ukraine's President Zelensky regarding Crimea and NATO.
Or telling Putin to make a deal now.
Right. These sources suggest these actions show a willingness to use direct, sometimes unilateral pressure to reshape alliances or try and force conflict resolution. It's a complex picture.
It really is. It reveals this push and pull, doesn't it? A desire maybe to reduce foreign entanglements, but also a strong impulse to assert American power and interests.
And how that balance is struck has huge implications for handling hotspots like the Zangezur corridor.
Absolutely. So the Zangezur corridor situation, this flashpoint right on Iran's border, it really does lay bare these shifting global dynamics, challenging regional stability, and forcing a rethink of foreign policy doctrines.
It forces nations to confront hard choices, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Faced with ideological rigidity in places like Iran, economic pressures globally.
Which leaves us with a big question, really. What new forms of this calibrated engagement or maybe disengagement will actually end up shaping the next decade?
And how will those choices redefine what we even mean by national interest or global leadership? It's something to keep a close eye on.